Here's a question for you. Just how far are the radical left and inside the Beltway bandits willing to go to stop him? We all know they hate him for winning the fight to protect life, for exposing their deep state, for draining their precious swamp. And they already know he'll crush Biden. So like a pack of rabid wolves, they attack. So let's impeach him. Let's get tainted radical left prosecutors to charge him. Let's conspire with Hillary and the FBI with fake stories about him. All to distract from Biden's incompetence, weakness, and money-grabbing corruption. But here's the thing, he'll never blink. That's called having the courage of your convictions. And it's why he's our president.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
The Trump side has been talking a lot about it. Let's bring in Trump senior advisor and former public defender, Kash Patel. Kash, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, y'all. Thank you.
You know, as Peter just said, this case boils down to it's not about having the documents. It's about what happened after the National Archives asked for the documents back, and they didn't get all of them. And next thing you know, there's a search warrant executed. Next thing you know, there's a suggestion that things were moved, that there's collusion, there's obstruction, there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, to me, look, as a former federal public defender in Miami and a national security prosecutor, it's a little simpler than that. It's what charges have they levied based on what laws? They're opposing the Espionage Act versus the Presidential Records Act. The latter supersedes the former. So it doesn't matter where they were and who moved them and how, if President Trump is the recipient of those as president of the United States when he left the White House. It's a pretty simple matter. What I'd like to talk about is some of the lawyers on Jack Smith's special counsel team. Remember, Jack Smith is the one who spearheaded the Bob McDonald case and got shellacked by the Supreme Court 9-0.
Governor of Virginia.
His deputy special counsel is Karen Gilbert, who's one of the most corrupt prosecutors to ever come out of the Southern District of Miami.
Right. A couple of other things. Jack Smith, we heard all about his investigation. It was very public who he was bringing in. Why did he choose to go so public with what he was doing? Why do we get all these leaks out of his camp?
Well, it's the same playbook that the FBI and DOJ have run, whether it's Russiagate, impeachment 1, impeachment 2, Jan 6, what have you. If it favors a story that helps push their narrative, they leak the information relentlessly, whether it's classified or not. And what they don't leak are their actions of corruption by the prosecutors bringing this case. And let me give you an example. The lead prosecutor, Karen Gilbert, who was likely to be the trial attorney in the Southern District of Florida in 2009, was so reprimanded in a narcotics trafficking case that she had to retire from her position. And years later, she was promoted upwards at the DOJ. And now you find, and don't believe me, go to the Ali Shagan case from 2009 and Judge Gold in the Federal District of the Southern District of Florida and look up Karen Gilbert. She is the Weissman to Jack Smith, and she has been pulling the reins on this investigation. And she was called one of the most corrupt people to, guess what? She wiretapped the defense lawyer's investigative office to eavesdrop on the conversation between the defense attorney and the investigator. And before she got slapped by the courts, she resigned from her position. This person is leading this prosecution.
Have you talked to President Trump? Have you asked him, was this worth it? I mean, why even take these documents? And then when you are found to have them in your possession, just give them back. Because these are things like a letter from Obama, a birthday menu, which probably is not part of the classified portion, a cocktail napkin, a letter from Kim Jong-un. You listed a few others earlier in the show. I mean, is it worth it? I don't even know if America, I think Democrats and Republicans would agree that you shouldn't go to jail or be behind bars for more than 100 years because of this. If that were the case, I mean, Biden could go to jail, so could President Trump, depending on the different charges. But is it worth it? Why not just give this stuff back?
To me, look, maybe I'm old school. The rule of law is worth it. And President Trump abided by the rule of law, whether he took a cocktail napkin or 4,000 boxes of documents. George Bush, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and President Trump should be treated no differently. The two-tier system of justice is on explosive display here. And it is, of course, worth it if and when I believe Donald Trump will be exonerated, to show that he has been a political target rather than a legal target. So whether he took it or not is not the question to me. It's the why they are prosecuting him when they know they don't have a legal justification to do so.
But
Well,
Cash, let me
Cash-
ask you something about this, the jury makeup of Miami. You know Miami. Does he have a better shot at a fair trial there than he does in New York City and would have in Washington, where he might be facing the January 6th charge?
Well, sure, of course. I mean, Miami's a little better than Washington, D.C. and New York, but I think it's a pretextual forum shopping operation by these U.S. attorneys and the special counsel's office. To me, I think maybe this will backfire depending on the judge that this lands in, because I don't know that this case will ever get to a jury because of the legal questions at play vis-a-vis the Presidential Records Act and Espionage Act. And oh, by the way, if you want to charge him with obstruction of justice, he has to commit an actual illegality. So these are legal questions that may go to the judge, and I think ultimately the appellate courts before it ever gets to a jury. And I think the DOJ may have bought off more than it can chew by trying to quote unquote forum shop this case down to the Southern District of Miami, where it's home court advantage for the deputy special counsel.
Well, Cash, we had Jim Trusty on a couple hours ago, and he was talking about how much time, working on a case like this is. Now with the former president facing these charges, which will be unsealed on Tuesday, potential case down in Georgia, potential case with Jack Smith and January 6th and all the other stuff. Does the former president have time to run for president and defend himself at the same time? Because it sounds like a lot of this is going to be happening in the next year.
I think so. And I'll just give you an example as a former chief of staff of DOD for him. I've seen this individual as president operate hostage rescue operations, kill some of the world's biggest terrorists, secure the southern border, order us to deploy DOD assets to take on the narcotics industry, take out the CCP fentanyl flow, all in one fell swoop. That was one day for me in the White House. So yes, I think President Trump of all people can do both this campaign and effectively show the two-tier system of justice is targeting him and anyone who's supporting him next. I think he's the only one that has the bandwidth to do so.
All right. Cash, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Have a great morning.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Joining me now, Jim Trusty, attorney for President Trump and former federal prosecutor. Jim, thank you for joining us tonight. What can you tell us about the charges as you know them?
Well, we don't have the actual indictment yet. I suppose they'll give that to us at some point between now and Tuesday afternoon. Maybe they're too embarrassed to give it to us early. I don't know. But it's a combination of theoretical charges. Again, we just have a summary. We don't have the indictment in front of us, but it looks like the Espionage Act, which is kind of laughable on its face, several types of obstruction and conspiracy, and then false statements. So they're kind of throwing everything in the kitchen sink up on the wall in an investigation that even in just recent days, we have brought to light criminal obstruction behavior by the investigators. You know, it's an amazing moment, Laura. I have not built a career attacking DOJ. I was a prosecutor for 27 years. I spent 17 years there, loved it. But this is outrageous that they actually have prosecutors who literally, among other things, and we've categorized a number of abuses, literally told an attorney that he probably won't get his judgeship if he doesn't flip his guy against the president. You know, you don't have to be a lawyer to recognize there's something really wrong with that. One of their main investigators, one of their main prosecutors, I should say, said that in front of 5 others who kind of looked down at their shoes and didn't say anything, basically committing a federal crime at the Department of Justice to try to bring home cooperation from who they viewed as an important witness. It is astounding that that's not the real headline as opposed to this indictment.
Well, NBC News justice correspondent Jim says that Trump doesn't have a defense in that this legal strategy that he has, I guess that you're leading, will just focus on discrediting the DOJ. Watch this.
Trump's lawyers are really not keen on arguing the facts here or the law, or arguing that their client is not guilty of these potential charges, but they're more concerned with arguing about how the DOJ played hardball. And look, they did play hardball in this case, and we'll just have to see whether the Justice Department did anything wrong in the process of prosecuting this case.
Jim, the argument that you won't actually argue the charges, you're just going to argue the reputation of the department itself.
No, I mean, look, this was basically trying to appeal to somebody in that chain, that Praetorian Guard for the Democratic Party, to have a conscience. You know, the Attorney General is hiding behind the special counsel. He still controls special counsel, but he sat there and hid, didn't want to meet with us, didn't want to talk, didn't want to consider the ethical problems. We raised it quietly at first, loudly now, that their investigation is fatally flawed from outrageous misconduct, perhaps even criminal misconduct. But make no mistake, I mean, there are layers of defenses to these charges. And the most fundamental thing, just so your viewers get this, Laura, there's this thing called the Presidential Records Act. It is precisely dealing with presidents and former presidents and basically saying, and DOJ agreed with this years ago in a case involving Bill Clinton, that the former president gets to decide what he keeps. He should work really closely with archives. They can ask him nicely. If they get mad, they think he's holding on to too many things, they have a remedy called civil suits. There is no criminal penalty for violating the Presidential Records Act. It's a reflection of the fact that historically, before Nixon, they had completely unfettered rights to keep everything. Now we're saying at least please work with archives so we can see some of the stuff you created while you're in the White House. So that was the starting point. And by the way, Laura, one quick point on this.
Sure.
The referral from the National Archives to DOJ came from the White House, actually violating the Administrative Procedures Act. And they lied about this. They're the ones that started this thing. The politicized bureaucrats at NARA, the archivists, were happy to push it forward and into this Praetorian Guard of DOJ, who's hell-bent on prosecuting them no matter how many rules they break.
One of the claims, I believe, one of the counts will involve potential obstruction of justice, which, as you know, in my old career as a white-collar criminal defense attorney, Jim, was always considered very seriously, along with conspiracy counts, which perhaps will be involved in this indictment as well, listed in the indictment. The concern that is raised that if the president was told not to move boxes and they have someone on video indeed moving boxes, even if there was nothing in the boxes, those particular boxes, that could be a problem. Or if tape recordings exist that where someone tells someone move that, that's where people get into trouble. How concerned about that are you tonight?
Yeah, not as much as you might think, because if you really know the facts, and I can't play out all the facts on TV, but if you really know the facts, there's absolutely no intent there. There's nothing to make sense. In fact, you can't even obstruct a non-crime as a starting principle. So when you have the Presidential Record Act defense, when you have declassification as a defense, then there's really nothing. I mean, he could have had a party throwing stuff in a bonfire and it wouldn't be obstruction. But the reality is these guys have been desperately grasping for an obstruction theory for a political reason, which is they keep trying to set up this, oh, Joe Biden's wonderful holding on to stuff that he stole from a skiff in 1974, but Trump just didn't answer the bell. Well, the last thing the president said to DOJ, to that same guy who extorted a lawyer, was, if you need anything, just ask. He told his lawyer at the time, show him where the stuff is kept in the storage room, and they did that. And so he says, just let us know. The next thing he gets is a letter that says, please put a lock on the door, which he does. And then DOJ goes black because that prosecutor was desperate to get a search warrant even before he had ever met the president. The Washington Post reports that prosecutor, before they even did a subpoena, was saying, how do I get the nose under the tent at Mar-a-Lago, or words to that effect. So that's what happened. They dropped off a cliff because they didn't want to cooperate with President Trump's lawyer. The president was cooperative through and through. The lawyer would have been, but they went radio black until they show up in their khakis with their laptops and their guns and their badges, and they do an unprecedented raid with really a general warrant that violates the Fourth Amendment, but we'll do a separate show on that some other time.
Jim, do you think that if President Trump, this is a rhetorical question, had said last year or recently, I'm actually not running for president. I'm not going to be involved in the 2024 campaign. I'm retiring from politics. How likely would it have been that they would have gone after him?
Well, I think
0%?
the fervor would have dropped 0.5%. How about that? Really
Yeah,
hard
I
to
was
figure out. What does
gonna
that
say.
mean? That's less than 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a really small percentage. The only way, I mean, look, there is abject hatred for President Trump in some of the circles of DOJ and the FBI. So, he could have basically like saved an orphanage from a fire, and these guys would say he's lucky, and they'd still go after him. The other thing that I think affects that whole equation is Delaware, where apparently all investigations go to die. In Delaware, you've got horrific family-wide corruption, foreign corruption scandals involving the Biden family, as
We're
well
getting
as
to
the
that.
laptop from hell, and they're slow walking the heck out of that. So that's always cover for whatever soft deal they want to give Hunter to do something against President Trump. Say, look how balanced we are. We softened a little misdemeanor tax plea for Hunter, and we also indicted a president for something that's not criminal.
That's facially absurd. Now, the New York Times just reported tonight, Jim, that one of the charges is in fact a violation of the Espionage Act. Now, your reaction to that, if that is indeed the case?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're dusting off stuff that across the board was apparently not in play when Hillary bleach bitted 30,000 emails that were under subpoena. But the Espionage Act includes a whole bunch of language that not just that the documents implicate national defense, but that your intent is to violate the sovereignty of the United States, to hurt the United States, or to help a foreign power. That's absurd under any theory of this case. And they've got a whole bunch of rotating theories because they can't find the facts they want. But there's absolutely nothing remotely like that. If he holds on to some documents, or people pack documents and he has them in the storage room, even if he talks about those documents or talks about the existence of them, that is light years away from the specific intent that they need for an espionage case.
Jim, what's the president's mood tonight? I know he knew this was coming, but give us a sense of what the man's feeling tonight.
It's an interesting mix, Laura. People think that when you're accused of something, it's pretty natural, at least from my client base, to really turn inward, right? You're like, what the heck? How is this happening? It's a particularly hard moment when you're innocent. And he's actually innocent. It's a little easier when you've done something wrong and you go, ah, crap, they finally caught up with me. That's not what we're talking about. So there is that kind of initial shock. I think he's got a lot of people around him expressing support. And that's a mixed bag. It kind of puts it in your head as a very depressing notion. But he also doesn't lose track of the absolute crossing of the Rubicon as a country, the historic nature of a sitting president unleashing the hounds to go after a non-criminal event to basically incapacitate the opposition. It is an astounding third world moment. And again, that's not my shtick as an attorney to go around saying that in cases, but that's where we are as a country. And the other people that are celebrating tonight better realize that they're letting something out of the genie bottle that's going to hurt this country for generations.
Well, and the investigations can be turned on them and will be turned on them if this is allowed to stand. Jim, we appreciate it. Obviously, we're covering every aspect of this. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else. We check in now with the great one. I call him the great one. He's the host of Life, Liberty, Levin. Weeknights, weekends, Sunday at 9 p.m. Top show on the network. The great one, Mark Levin. Mark, I'll just hand it to you. I know you got a lot to say.
President Trump is 76 years old. If the Department of Justice gets his way, he will die in federal prison. Just by one of these counts, conspiracy to obstruct justice, which has a 20-year maximum sentence. This is a disgusting mark on American history for the future to come by these bandits in the White House, by the Democrat Party that don't play fair anymore. They don't want to just win elections. They want to take control of this country. They want one-party rule. And they have used the Department of Justice and the FBI to get what they want. Merrick Garland is a mob lawyer. That's what he is. Jack Reed is a rogue Soviet-style prosecutor. The Presidential Records Act is not a criminal statute, and it was never intended to be. The Espionage Act of 1917 was passed under Woodrow Wilson, another corrupt president. Woodrow Wilson used it to go after his adversaries, and they imprisoned 2,000 people. So I suppose over there at the Department of Injustice and this clown prosecutor spent a lot of time at The Hague. They probably figured these laws could be used to try and entrap Trump. All these obstruction issues that they claim, where the former Attorney General, Bill Barr, comes up here and bloviates about it, and all the formers coming on talking about obstruction. They have them on obstruction. There'd be no obstruction issue of any kind, not even in anybody's imagination, had they not criminalized this case. This is a document case where a president of the United States or a former president faces 100 years in federal prison. Is this some kind of a sick joke on the American people? Joe Biden says he never told them what to do. Joe Biden had to sign off on that's becoming a National Archives case to have it go to the Department of Justice. Who does he think he's lying to? The American people? This is a guy that's got documents from the time he was in the U.S. Senate, for God's sakes, in his garage. I don't want to hear from the legal analysts the technicalities about false statements and obstruction. This should never have been a criminal case. Willful retention of documents. Well, what's the unwillful retention of documents mean? They're throwing all these process crimes and all these crimes that grow out of the criminal investigation against Trump. What did he do with the documents? Did he sell them to the enemy? No. That's why we have an Espionage Act, not to trick up a president. What did he do? Did he burn them all? No. The government has all the documents back. So there is no violation of the Presidential Records Act at this point. But they throw the book at him. They go after his attorneys. They make them testify. They're attorneys under the crime fraud exception to attorney-client privilege. That means he didn't have due process. His own lawyers were being subjected to interrogations. And they had hundreds of in-person people testifying in front of grand juries. Thousands of collections of documents. For what? For what? And they indict him today? They indict him today in Miami? All of a sudden it's in Miami? All of a sudden we have a Florida grand jury? Because the moron in Washington figured out that there are venue issues that could lose him his case. This guy, this prosecutor, he lost 8-0 in the U.S. Supreme Court when they overturned the conviction of the former governor of Virginia because this jerk took a statute and expanded it. A jury in North Carolina wouldn't convict John Edwards because this jerk took a campaign statute and expanded it. And he's taken this case and he's undermining the country and he's interfering with a presidential election. And let me be clear, as Jared said, the Attorney General of the United States made this final decision. This is not the independent counsel statute. This is a special counsel appointed by the Attorney General under a Department of Justice regulation. This Attorney General, who pretends he's Helen Keller, he made the decision to indict the former president, and they made the decision to interfere in this election. You want to talk about an insurrection? This is an insurrection, and that's exactly what's going on here. Let me go on. Joe Biden is the crookedest crook that's ever been in the Oval Office. Everywhere we look, there's a predicate for a special counsel. They won't appoint a special counsel, even though it's compelled under the law in which they appointed this special counsel. And you're not supposed to appoint a special counsel against your political opponent. You're supposed to appoint one in the case of Biden. 20 shell corporations. $10 million coming from the Communist Chinese military, spread out among the family. No businesses to support this. Endless meetings with Biden's, with Hunter Biden's business partners. Bob Alinsky, who ties Joe Biden to the crimes. Mr. Big, Mr. 10%. And what does Biden say? Well, then where's the money? He's asking us, come and catch me if you can. The idea that this man isn't under a criminal investigation and that they criminalized a damn document case to go after Donald Trump is sickening. And I would say this to our fellow Americans. Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels and these fools who come on and tell you, well, he's not above the law. Are you kidding me? Democrat Attorney General in New York, Democrat prosecutor in Manhattan, Democrat prosecutor in Atlanta, Democrat attorney general in Washington, D.C. What do you mean he's not above the law? There is no law. What's going on here is a disgusting disgrace. It is war on Trump. It is war on the Republican Party, and it is a war on the republic. The radical left is doing what the radical left does while they cover up for Biden the way they covered up for Hillary. If Donald Trump is to be charged like this, Hillary Clinton should have been charged with 10,000 counts of obstruction because that's how many emails she destroyed, and 5 counts of destroying cell phones because that's how many cell phones they destroyed. I'm done, and I'm sick of it.
What you said, you know, Mark, many years ago, you said to me, and you said in one of your books, we're in a post-constitutional America. And what you're describing here, when you said they are the ones that are that are abusing the power, that they've criminalized political differences, that they've weaponized the Justice Department. That's what you're saying. They love the term insurrection, and you're saying that's them. They're not abiding by the law. They're not abiding by the principle of equal justice or equal application of our laws. Am I hearing you right?
You're hearing me right, and let me say this. Today, what is today's date? June 8th? June 8th is the day of insurrection, not January 6th. A weaponized U.S. attorney, a weaponized Attorney General of the United States have unleashed the full force of the United States government against a former president, the leading Republican nominee to take on the existing president. We have never seen anything like this in the United States. We saw it under Stalin. We've seen it in other autocracies, Marxist regimes, fascist regimes, the third world. But they have taken the United States of America and they have dragged us into a hellhole. This is embarrassing. It's humiliating. And I'm going to tell you something. There are tens of millions of us. You have crossed the Rubicon twice, which has never been done. And we will never forgive you. Never, ever. And that's the bottom line. I'm done.
Mark Levin, thank you.
After getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails, and then you acid wash them or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. So we're going to get a special prosecutor, and we're going to look into it because you know what? People have been, their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done, and it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about email.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised. In the first debate,
And we really, the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking. So I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
It is 11:30 in the East, and as we look at Democracy Plaza, NBC News projecting that Donald Trump is the apparent winner in Florida. Donald Trump, the apparent winner in Florida. It's a state that he called a must-win, and he appears to be winning it. 29 electoral votes. Let's show you the vote count right now as it stands. 49% Trump, 48% Clinton. That's the current vote count. 96% of the vote in Florida. Big change there with that last round. 228 for Trump, 209 for Clinton, as more and more states are now filled in. Some big ones still outstanding there. We continue to watch. That will likely turn this race one way or the other. Let's go right now. By the way, this is the view at Clinton headquarters. Obviously, reacting to that news in Florida. Long faces at this viewing party here. This is Clinton headquarters in New York. Let's go to Andrea Mitchell. She is there. Andrea.
Well, you're showing the faces, the stunning information as it's been progressing here of Donald Trump winning Iowa and Florida. But pollsters missed it, correspondents missed it.
So once again, in the interest of transparency, worth noting that the AP, which is what we're using for our projections, has called Florida for Donald Trump, but many of the other television networks have not yet called Florida. Jason, you're shaking your head like that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it's because Trump's going to win Florida. I mean, and if you look at it, you know, we were having a discussion earlier. There's just not enough extra places where Hillary Clinton can get a vote.
So why not call it?
Because I think that nobody wants to be wrong. And I've been saying this all along. For example, like there are local newspapers in Michigan that have called Michigan for Clinton, and no one else wants to get out front because you don't want to end up being the person who's wrong. I think a key thing that we've seen all throughout tonight is, as stressed as Democrats may be, as shocked, and let's be honest, even the Trump people are like, yeah, like they didn't know they were going to do this well. Like they're fronting if they really think they were going to do this well at the end.
Breaking news, CBS News now estimates that Donald Trump will be the winner in Florida. This was key to the Trump campaign. He virtually could not win the presidency without Florida. He has now racked up Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio by our estimates among the battleground states. Nor there are several other states in the battleground states that we're looking at that haven't been called yet.
That's right. We should take a look now at the state of Pennsylvania, which now becomes crucial for Hillary Clinton to keep in the Democratic column.
That's 20 electoral votes in Pennsylvania, 29 in Florida. So those are big numbers there.
Donald Trump is now 48 votes from having the presidency.
Let's look at that electoral college map. We'll show you that Hillary Clinton has 197 electoral college votes. Donald Trump now regaining the lead with 222.
To Emily. In the last few seconds, they have just called Florida for Donald Trump. It has been projected for the Republicans for Donald Trump on 49.1% share of the vote. Incredibly tight, but not as tight as it was last time round. Last time, you might remember, it was never called at all. 100% of the precincts in, they are confident that this goes in the red tally for Donald Trump, and that is why it matters. 29 electoral college votes. With that now on the map, he can do practically anything. Let's just have a look at it, and you'll see what I mean. He's colored in Florida. His tally has shot up to 222. He's now short by 48. If I take you into my calculator mode and show you what that means, if he adds in Arizona, which was won by Romney last time round, if he takes Iowa, won by Romney last time round, if he takes Georgia, where he's ahead, if he takes Alaska, let's put that in, that one is in no doubt, he's only short by 12. What that means at this stage is that he can take Michigan or Pennsylvania or a combination of Wisconsin and New Hampshire, plus we can assume one or two, probably main two there, then he has done it. He hasn't done it yet, and all those races are still very heated and very on. And it's important to notice that at this point, the only states he's actually taken, the only ones that have changed hands are Ohio and Florida. But we began the night by saying, for Donald Trump to really find his path, he needs to take Florida and Ohio and Pennsylvania. He needs to take some combination or pretty much all three of those. He's taken two of them. Suddenly, it's all looking much more possible tonight.
It does indeed. Let's get some more pictures of the celebrations among the Mr. Trump's supporters. You wouldn't want to count your chickens before they're hatched, Katie, but if you were in the Trump campaign, you were beginning to think, we've done it.
Donald Trump has won the state of Florida. Wow. Donald Trump has picked up the 29 electoral votes from Florida, and that is a stunner. By almost all the latest tracking polls in the Sunshine State, Hillary Clinton was ahead anywhere from 2. One survey had her ahead 5 points. In the end, she loses this state. There's going to be a lot of hand-wringing about what happened. but he picks up those 29 electoral votes.
Futures, people betting on what's going to happen, or people putting their making their stakes in terms of what's going to happen at market opening, down nearly 700 points tonight, with Donald Trump having such a better night than a lot of people thought he would.
The Dow futures were not on the minds of the people who have turned vast stretches of our country red this evening. We have a call, the state of Florida. What we are terming the apparent winner, Donald Trump. In the state of Florida, 29 electoral votes. The apparent winner terminology. Here is the electoral math. 216 Trump, 209 Clinton. The race for 270, here's how it plays out visually. So much talk about the paths to 270. 228, 209.
Again, the number that you're going for here is 270. That's the number of electoral votes that you need in order to win the presidency.
Steve.
This is, Trump and Clinton had both said they were going to win places like California and New York and New Jersey and so on. They never really moved out of the presumed Democrat column, but we also have a big call to make now.
Big call right now. Donald Trump will win the state of Florida. According to the Fox News decision desk, he will win the 29 electoral votes in Florida. A very tight race, but he is pulling that off. As you can see, the crowds outside here cheering. 49% to 47% right now, but we can project that he is going to win Florida. That means he has won Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. This is the triple states that he needed to win to make the path possible. And as you just saw, Megan, upstairs, it's very possible as of this moment.
If you need the inside straight, he is well on his way, although it's not yet over.
And it's that time of the night again. I've got to break in. We've got news. Hari, Judy?
And we have a call to make. This is a big one. The state of Florida, which has held other presidential elections in the balance. We are projecting that Donald Trump will be the winner in the Sunshine State. You can see there are still, 10 million votes counted so far. The votes are still coming in. No, I think that's 99% reporting. I can't tell if that's if that's the right number, but it's down to the wire, Hari. But in terms of they waited for all the votes to come in, but Donald Trump projected to win. Amy, this makes Hillary Clinton's path even tougher.
Big. When we would do the math and the projections of how one candidate gets a 270 or another, you can take Florida off the map for Hillary Clinton. She has other pathways, but it's assuming that she wins Wisconsin and Michigan and New Hampshire. Those are not a given.
To say the least.
All right, we have another major projection right now. Take a look at this. And CNN projects Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida. With its 29 electoral votes, Donald Trump wins Florida. A huge win for Donald Trump. That's his second home in Florida. Donald Trump will carry those 29 electoral votes. He's ahead right now with 98% of the vote in by more than 131,000 votes. A big win for Donald Trump in Florida. He predicted he would win Florida. He has won Florida. Let's take a look at the Electoral College map right now. You see Donald Trump has taken the lead. He has 216 electoral votes compared to Hillary Clinton's 197 electoral votes, 270 needed to win the White House. But it's a big, big win for Donald Trump in Florida. Jake and Dan, a lot of people didn't think that Donald Trump would be able to do it. He did it in Florida.
He did. A huge prize, 29 electoral votes, where his second home is at Mar-a-Lago.
And I think we should take a moment and talk about Florida. Because, as you said, it was something that Donald Trump said he was going to win, said he needed to win. It looks like we projected that he has won it. And it just shows that there are big questions as to who this electorate is. Because looking at the early vote, part of the reason why Democrats were so bullish about Florida and part of the reason why Republicans were so pessimistic was because of what they saw was a big surge in the Latino vote. So at the end of the day, we'll see what that Latino vote was, particularly a newly bigger Puerto Rican areas in the I-4 corridor. And if that surge really happened, and if it did, which way do they vote?
Yeah. Okay, big call now, one that we've been waiting for since the minute we signed on, and that is Florida. It is going into the Donald Trump column, and that shows you with 222 electoral college votes for Donald Trump, 198 for Hillary Clinton. The math continues not to work in her favor. Let's go back to Ashley, David, and Danielle on this one. It's awfully hard to come up with a scenario now where he doesn't win.
Those are three big exits.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina, gone. Yep. Florida, gone. Ohio, gone.
Looking like
they
Wisconsin.
needed.
Looking like Wisconsin also gone.
And you know, she had to keep her blue wall. She had to keep Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Pennsylvania's looking good. Michigan and Wisconsin, not so good. But she had to add one of those three, and they are all three gone. This is looking really dire for her.
We will continue to have a conversation about it. She will get somewhere over the 200 mark, and then we will stall. This is a wrap. We had states that should have never been in play. We had Michigan in play. What happened in Michigan today? We're looking at this map, and this is like the worst scenario. This is like Obama opposite. When we had, in 2012, we were looking at the polls and we saw Mitt Romney, and all the polls said that Mitt Romney was, 5 points ahead of Barack Obama. And they said, oh, he's right there. Then all of a sudden, election day comes and it was pretty much like a landslide for Obama. And I said, you know what? Polls, you can't really trust them. And I said that, and people said, oh, no, you can't say that. Yeah, you can, because polls are determined by the questions that you ask, how you ask those questions, how they're worded, who you're talking to, where you're talking to them from. No one ever breaks down the demographics of who they're talking to or where they're talking to these people. What we thought to be true, though, 2 weeks ago, when we saw that video being leaked, the Access Hollywood video with Billy Bush on there, and we said, Trump is done. But this is the man that they are backing. So we know that America's religious values and moral center is also nonsense, much like the polls were.
David?
If it is a Donald Trump presidency, what happens in the next 2 years is just astonishing. It's probably a very short run for the Republicans, by the way, because they will outrun the mandate, they will be very radical, and then there'll be a reckoning in 2018. And there will be this, I don't think this is a good day for American democracy, but I don't think this is the last American election.
That's good to know. It was such a great thing.
And Secretary Clinton, I do want to follow up on emails. You've said your handling of your emails was a mistake. You disagreed with FBI Director James Comey, calling your handling of classified information, quote, extremely careless. The FBI said that there were
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump. That's not going to happen.
Donald Trump will not become president.
He's not going to be president. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
All right.
I think if he becomes the president, he'll make it great because the states is already great.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
On that note, Tom,
Take it from me. How about that?
Cheers, Tom.
And then, of course, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
So when you stand and deliver that State of the Union address, in no part of your mind or brain can you imagine Donald Trump standing up one day and delivering a State of the Union address?
Well, I can imagine it in a Saturday night skit. I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next. I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
And so right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? It's been fun. It's been great. I love you. But come on, buddy. All, let's say, cow poo-poo aside, there is zero chance we'll be seeing you being sworn in on the Capitol steps with your hand on a giant golden Bible.
I'll make a prediction, though, for you. And I don't really get into predictions much, but this one I'll go way out on a limb. Donald Trump will never, ever be president of the United States. That Trump should not be in this race. He's an absurdity. He is a travesty.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
Donald Trump is a here today, gone tomorrow candidate for president of the United States. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Ever respectful of the fact that the people have not voted, he's not going to be president of the United States.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump will lose the election.
I mean, he had a really good chance to be different and really have a chance to change things, but he doesn't do the work. He's lazy.
We talk about him every day, and we continuously bash him. He's not going to be the president. Don't worry about it. Exactly.
And we're coming to a point where if you're Hillary Clinton, you're honestly probably starting to think about not just whether you will win, but how big your win will be. And then you say that Donald Trump has the best day in the entire world, completely outperforms expectations, and he wins all of the toss-up states. He wins all 5 of those states, plus that electoral college vote in Maine that he's after. If he wins all of the toss-ups, which would be insane because nobody wins all of the toss-up states, even if Donald Trump did win all of the toss-up states, he would still lose.
To be a wake-up call to the Republican Party. Despite Boris thinking that Donald Trump could win New York, like this, the presidential race is over.
Could I just cut through? I have one thing to say, one thing only. And that is that this race is over. Tomorrow morning, the money will dry up. The Republicans will start to hide. Trump has no place to go. This race, effectively, as of tonight, is no longer a presidential race. I mean, everything I know about presidential politics, and I've been through 5 of them, I've never seen one like this. This race is over. You might as well accept it. And the question now is, how do you minimize damage? And the only way you can do that, it seems to me, is to try to grab hold of some old conservative value things and do what Mondale did in '84, which is try to save a few people down ballot. But as far as Donald Trump's concerned, it will never, ever, ever happen.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
Have you ever heard this president say one negative thing about white supremacists? Have you ever heard it?
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke.
You wouldn't even condemn David Duke, for God's sake.
Well, you've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem. I mean, this is not exactly the people you want in your party.
I got back in this race because of what happened in Charlottesville. People coming out of the woods carrying torches, their veins bulging, and a young woman gets killed resisting the hate and violence, and the president gets asked to comment on it. What's he say? He says they're very fine people on both sides.
And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. Racism is evil, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists. Condemn the evil of anti-Semitism and hate. Our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. Be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America or for any form of religious or racial hatred or prejudice. Must never ignore the vile poison of anti-Semitism or those who spread its venomous creed. How many times do I have to reject? I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. From the time I'm 5 years old, I rejected them.
David Duke is saying to his supporters and followers, vote for Donald Trump. White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it. I don't like any group of hate. Hate groups are not for me.
You've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem.
David Duke endorsement? I disavow, okay? Let me be clear again. I condemn the KKK. I condemn all white supremacists. I condemn the Proud Boys.
Trump's campaign told CBS News this publication is repulsive and their views do not represent the tens of millions of Americans who are uniting behind our campaign.
I'm not looking
Would you repudiate David Duke?
Sure. When we looked at it and looked at the question, I disavowed David Duke. So I disavowed David Duke all weekend long on Facebook, on Twitter, and obviously it's never enough. I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke, Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow.
You want white supremacists to vote for you?
No, I don't. No, not at all. How many times do I have to reject? Love for America requires love for all of its people. When we open our hearts to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice, no place for bigotry, and no tolerance for hate.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing
to
do
specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump.
Were 110 classified emails that were exchanged, 8 of which were top secret, and that it was possible hostile actors did gain access to those emails. You don't call that extremely careless?
Well, Martha, first let me say, and I've said it before, but I'll repeat it because I want everyone to hear it. That was a mistake, and I take responsibility for using a personal email account. Obviously, if I were to do it over again, I would not. I'm not making any excuses. It was a mistake, and I am very sorry about that. But I think it's also important to point out where there are some misleading accusations from critics and others. After a year-long investigation, there is no evidence that anyone hacked the server I was using, and there is no evidence that anyone can point to at all. Anyone who says otherwise has no basis, that any classified material ended up in the wrong hands. I take classified materials very seriously and always have. When I was on the Senate Armed Services Committee, I was privy to a lot of classified material. Obviously, as Secretary of State, I had some of the most important secrets that we possess, such as going after bin Laden. So I am very committed to taking classified information seriously. And as I said, there is no evidence that any classified information ended up in the wrong hands.
Okay, we're going to move on.
And yet, she didn't know the letter C on a document, right? She didn't even know what that letter meant. You know, it's amazing. I'm watching Hillary go over facts, and she's going after fact after fact, and she's lying again because she said what she did with emails was fine. You think it was fine to delete 33,000 emails? I don't think so. She said the 33,000 emails had to do with her daughter's wedding, number one, and a yoga class. Well, maybe we'll give 3 or 4 or 5 or something. 33,000 emails deleted. And now she's saying there wasn't anything wrong. And more importantly, that was after getting a subpoena. That wasn't.
He's not going to be the nominee, Chuck. I mean, as you know, I'm ahead in Ohio.
So, Jenny, could he actually win?
No freaking way!
He will be tempted to run, be predictably shellacked.
Do not tell me that Donald Trump is in this to win this, okay? He's a sideshow.
This is going to turn a 3-ring circus into a freak show.
He's not running for president. He's running for Keep Me Famous.
I thought this was maybe some strategy for a new reality show.
How should Republicans handle Donald Trump?
Ignore him.
And Donald Trump is not going to be the nominee of this party.
Well, I don't think it's likely that Donald Trump will be the nominee.
Well, I do, based on your theme, believe that he's here to stay for a while, maybe through a few primaries, but he is not going to be the nominee.
Well, I'm going to support the Republican nominee, and I'm comfortable that it's not going to be Donald Trump.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump. That's not going to happen.
Donald Trump will not become president.
He's not going to be president. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
All right.
I think if he becomes the president, he'll make it great because the state's is already great.
I think that man will be president of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
On that note, Tom.
Take it from me. How about that?
Cheers, Tom. And then, of course, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
So when you stand and deliver that State of the Union address, in no part of your mind or brain can you imagine Donald Trump standing up one day and delivering a State of the Union address?
Well, I can imagine it in a Saturday night skit. I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
He will never be president of the United States.
And we better be ready for the fact that he might be leading the Republican ticket next. I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Sorry to laugh.
Okay, here we are. And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
And so, right now, Mr. Trump, to answer your call for political honesty, I just want to say, you're not going to be president, all right? But come on, buddy. All, let's say, cow poo-poo aside, there is zero chance we'll be seeing you being sworn in on the Capitol steps with your hand on a giant golden Bible.
I'll make a prediction, though, for you. I don't really get into predictions much, but this one I'll go way out on a limb. Donald Trump will never, ever
be president of the United States. That Trump should not be in this race. He's an absurdity. He is a travesty.
Donald Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
Donald Trump is the here today, gone tomorrow candidate for president of the United States. Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Ever respectful of the fact that the people have not voted, he's not going to be president of the United States.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump will lose the election.
I mean, he had a really good chance to be different and really have a chance to change things, but he doesn't do the work. He's lazy.
We talk about him every day, and we continuously bash him. He's not going to be the president. Don't worry about it. Exactly.
To be a wake-up call to the Republican Party. Despite Boris thinking that Donald Trump could win New York, like this, the presidential race is over.
Could I just cut through? I have one thing to say, one thing only, and that is that this race is over. Tomorrow morning, the money will dry up. The Republicans will start to hide. Trump has no place to go. This race, effectively, as of tonight, is no longer a presidential race. Everything I know about presidential politics, and I've been through 5 of them, I've never seen one like this. This race is over. You might as well accept it. And the question now is, how do you minimize damage? And the only way you can do that, it seems to me, is to try to grab hold of some old conservative value things and do what Mondale did in '84, which is try to save a few people down ballot. But as far as Donald Trump's concerned, it will never, ever, ever happen.
President Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
Our new NBC News SurveyMonkey poll is out today. It puts Hillary Clinton up by 10 points over Donald Trump. And this is not the first poll since the conventions to give Clinton a double-digit lead. This is actually the fourth. 4 polls that have Clinton up by more than 10 points, or at least 10 points. Staying the kind of lead she has leaped out into this race, you could see other states that suddenly get crazy, states you wouldn't have even imagined, like a South Carolina, even a Texas. They could at least become competitive. And what it would mean doesn't mean Hillary Clinton's going to win all of these. It means we could have more competitive states than we ever imagined. That's the way to lay the land right now at this low moment for Donald Trump. We'll be back right after this.
We're back with David Hundo P. Clough, the man who says Hillary Clinton has a 100% chance of winning. So that means that no scenario that we could lay out to get Donald Trump to 270 electoral votes is something he would buy. So we thought we'd get David in here to look at those scenarios that the Republicans are talking about, citing them as a potential path to victory, and explain to us why they are not just implausible, but impossible.
If you look at Wisconsin, the Marquette poll came out yesterday. She's up 6 points. She's up 4 points in our polling in Pennsylvania. If she keeps those together, all she needs is New Hampshire, and she puts the race away, and she's out there.
Well,
so
for
again,
Colorado. For them to look at fortune, and it is true, fortune favors the bold. But if the Comey bomb didn't get them where they need to be, that really is the question.
It's it'll be interesting tomorrow night. I think when Hillary Clinton wins, that Donald Trump will have lost this election from the very first day he announced.
If the numbers bear out what we're seeing thus far, Hillary Clinton will win Florida. And the delicious irony in this is that Donald Trump will have been kept from the White House by a big, beautiful brown wall.
And CNN projects Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, Kansas with its 6 electoral votes, Nebraska with its 5 electoral votes, and Wyoming with its 3 electoral votes, North Dakota with its 3 electoral votes, and South Dakota, Texas, Arkansas. He has now taken the lead. Donald Trump has 128 electoral votes. Louisiana, the state of Montana, Missouri, Ohio. He has 167 electoral votes compared to Hillary Clinton's 109. Idaho, North Carolina, Georgia, Iowa, Utah, Wisconsin, Arizona.
But we should really just take a moment here and look at this. Pollsters predicted that Hillary Clinton was going to have not just a victory, but that she was going to win an electoral landslide. Not only is that not happening, It is entirely possible that Donald Trump is truly redrawing the map the way that he said he was going to. It was Donald Trump versus almost all the experts. And as of right now, it looks like Donald Trump was right.
Donald Trump has defeated Hillary Clinton to become president-elect of the United States.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for. And I'm sorry that we did not win this election.
I love this country.
The shockwaves from Donald Trump's victory continue to be felt across America and around the world.
Donald Trump wird der 45.
Élu Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump.
Everyone was wrong. The backlash begins. Some magazines are facing big embarrassments today. Newsweek had already shipped out this cover, Madam Secretary, but quickly had to change it to this, President Trump.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
And I'll be honest, I am so disappointed in congressmen, including Republicans, for allowing this to happen. Our Justice Department, where her husband goes onto the back of an airplane for 39 minutes, talks to the Attorney General days before a ruling is going to be made on her case. But for you to say that there was nothing wrong with you deleting 39,000 emails, again, you should be ashamed of yourself, what you did. And this is after getting a subpoena from the United States Congress.
We have to move on. Secretary Clinton, you can respond, and then we got to move on.
We want to give the audience a chance
put
here.
in jail, let alone after getting a subpoena from the United States
Secretary
Congress.
Clinton, you can respond, then we have to move on to an audience question.
Look, it's just not true. And so please go
you didn't delete them?
Allow her to respond, please.
Personal emails, not official.
33,000?
Not, well, we turned over 35,000. So it was.
What about the other 15,000?
Please allow her to respond. She didn't talk while you talked.
Yes, that's true. I didn't.
Because you
I
have
didn't
nothing
in
to
the
say.
first debate, and I'm going to try not to in this debate because I'd like to get to the questions that the people have brought here tonight to talk to us about.
And get off this question.
Okay, Donald, I know you're into big diversion tonight, anything to avoid talking about your campaign and the way it's exploding and the way Republicans are leaving you. But let's at least focus on some of the issues that people care about tonight. Let's get to their questions.
We have a question here from Ken Karpowitz. He has a question about health care. Ken?
I'd like to know, Anderson, why aren't you bringing up the emails? I'd like to know. Why aren't you
We
getting
brought up
to
the
bottom?
emails.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And it hasn't been finished at all.
If I decide to run, you'll have the great pleasure of voting for the man that will easily go down as the greatest president in the history of the United States. Me, Donald John Trump.
I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president. It's not hosting a talk show or a reality show.
You're fired.
270 being the magic number on the Electoral College. Bob, you've been on the phone dialing around. What have you heard?
Well, I can't find a single Republican. I talked to probably 12 Republican senators yesterday or their representatives. I couldn't find a single one who now thinks they're going to win.
You're fired.
So that means that no scenario that we could lay out to get Donald Trump to 270 electoral votes.
Look, this election's over, okay? Trump cannot win.
Deserves the second chance.
Rosie is a loser.
Tell us why Pennsylvania is impossible for Trump.
It's the Easter Bunny, okay? It doesn't exist.
Some big news here, Megan. Huge news. Actually, the AP now projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of Pennsylvania.
Hey, look at this! Donald Trump! Hey, look at this! Donald Trump! It's Trump the thumper. My God! The hostile takeover of Donald Trump on this thing.
We actually have some actual election results. And in fact, Trump is now taking the lead. He's taking the lead.
Wait, where?
In Florida.
Okay.
And so, come on, stop doing this every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I agree.
That is the race, frankly. There is no path forward for Hillary Clinton.
What's the difference between a wet raccoon and Donald J. Trump's hair? A wet raccoon doesn't have $7 billion in the bank.
Talk about how historically pathetic the Democratic Party is.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
It's important to point out, though, that my colleagues on the left, their candidate, had Omar Mateem's father sitting behind him, who is pro-Taliban and who is anti-gay. May I ask you a question?
And wait a minute. No, you can't ask me a question.
Because you can't answer the question.
Oh, you can't ask me a question, honey. I can't answer, so don't even try.
What attracted the father of the Orlando terrorist to your candidate?
He's a mentally ill individual
Oh,
who
that's
ran
what
for
attracted him.
president.
I get it.
Pardon me?
What attracted him to your candidate? And your answer was he's mentally ill.
His mantra that stop smiling and smirking like it's a funny thing.
No, his mantra that stop smiling and smirking like it's a funny thing. I am officially running for president of the United States.
Could he actually win? No freaking way.
Which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Donald Trump.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump.
Trump will not be president.
Trump will never be elected president of the United States.
You're not going to be president.
A
all
man
right?
who will never be president of the United States.
Donald Trump is not going to be president of the United States. Take it to the bank.
He will never be president.
Donald Trump is not going to become president of the United States.
She's at plus 19. Do you think the tapes made a difference? Of course! They made all the difference.
This race is over.
Hillary Clinton has raised more than double Donald Trump, vastly outspending him.
The presidency at about 89% for Hillary Clinton.
Your analytical model has never been wrong. Now projects Hillary Clinton to win presidential election.
100% chance. You still think she has a 100% chance of winning the election?
I do.
And what would Donald Trump have to do to turn things around?
Prayer and hope for a Festivus miracle.
This is CNN's coverage of Election Night in America, the fight for the presidency.
Because we don't care. Oh, okay, have Kentucky. Who cares?
Kentucky,
Don't care about Indiana. Don't care.
Indiana, with West Virginia, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, Kansas, Nebraska, and Wyoming with its vote, North Dakota and South Dakota, Texas,
Up and down the middle of the country, all red.
Arkansas, Louisiana, the state of Montana, Missouri.
It was at 80% an hour ago for Clinton. What is it now? 68%. Okay, God damn it, I'm nervous.
Ohio.
Hold. Ohio, gone.
Idaho.
Okay, yeah, I don't see a fucking landslide here. I don't see it at all.
North Carolina.
God damn it, if we need Florida, are you shitting me?
Florida.
It is fucking panic time.
Georgia.
Donald Trump, now the favorite to win the presidency.
Iowa.
New York Times now has it at 95% chance.
Utah.
Can still win, but in order to do so, she has to win Wisconsin. God damn it. Fuck.
Arizona.
Alaska.
Pennsylvania.
Michigan.
What a night.
Adjust the microphone as it's all, man. And for their gracious aid.
I am so sorry.
And which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
Obama will go down as perhaps the worst president in the history of the United States! Exclamation point at real Donald Trump. Well, at real Donald Trump, at least I will go down as a president.
You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This sucks. This is fucking true.
Stop! Give me a joke. Stop, please. Stop! I'm literally about to fucking kill myself and I'm not kidding. You better fucking fix this shit right now. I literally am gonna die. I need an ambulance. I can't believe it.
And in her lifetime, she deserves to be the first female president. And that's what they say. And President Obama, Mr. Obama, I want to thank you for everything you've done.
You're not fucking pissed right now. What is wrong with you? What is fucking wrong with you? You're not pissed right now.
I continue to believe that Trump will not be president.
You make me laugh. God bless you.
Not my president! Hey, you! Not my president! Hey, you! Not my president! Hey, you! Not my president!
Bing, 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 bong, bong, bing, 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 bong.
I'm triggered. Throughout this entire race where I'm officially shitting my pants. This is a different earth today than it was 24 hours ago. It's a different place. Cause it just is different.
If Trump wins, how about bursting into tears and screaming fuck for the next 45 minutes?
Because I'm on this network and people know my attitudes about things. They come up to me and they're scared, depressed, despair, desperate even, almost clinging to me.
It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes.
It feels like we're trying to avoid the apocalypse and half of the country is voting for the asteroid.
Is there a doomsday plan for a time like this? Am I right to ask about a doomsday plan? Do you see this as a doomsday scenario?
Is that not since George W. Bush has there been a White House, a Senate, and a House of Representatives all from the same party. And then the FBI has stuck its nasty little nose in the middle of this.
Everyone cheered when he called out CNN as fake news. That was so shocking and remarkable.
So is this in your opinion, is this the beginning of real news then?
No, I think it is the long overdue beginning of the end of the American media industry as we know it. I think the press in America deserves to burn, and I don't know what's going to come afterwards. I don't know what's going to rise from the ashes. But you know, the major broadcast networks and major newspapers in this country are not performing their essential function. You know, there has been a systemic failure. All I need to do to beat all of you single-handed is just be more fun and be more funny than I am.
You're fired.
Believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
I don't think he'll end up being president of the United States.
Will he win the general election?
I don't believe so, no.
I don't think there's any way that Donald Trump gets elected president of the United States.
Tomorrow night, I think when Hillary Clinton wins, that Donald Trump will have lost this election from the very first day he announced.
Donald Trump will have been kept from the White House by a big, beautiful brown wall.
Clinton has 274 in the lean Republican or solid Republican. So something has to flip.
Kentucky, where Fox News can project that Donald Trump will prevail, picking up 8 electoral votes. Trump will also win Indiana.
If he could get a North Carolina, that would be huge.
Donald Trump
has won the state of North Carolina.
Donald Trump will carry the state of North Carolina.
But if he loses Florida, it's over.
Donald Trump will win the state of Florida.
Donald Trump will carry the state of Florida. Donald Trump will take Ohio.
He has won Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. Hillary Clinton's lead over Donald Trump has dwindled. Iowa will go to Donald Trump.
He would have to pick off either Pennsylvania or Michigan or Wisconsin. Pennsylvania has just been called for Donald Trump.
Something has to flip.
Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin.
Long faces at this viewing party here.
Pennsylvania, this really just wiped away Clinton's chances of reaching the White House.
The crowd has been waiting for the last 45 minutes for that call.
Wolf, the scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago.
Hillary Clinton conceded on the phone.
Donald Trump, elected president of the United States.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead?
We always knew this was going to be a close race, and it is close. It's still too early to know exactly how we're going to get the path to victory, but we're still confident that Hillary Clinton will be elected tonight. I've got a lot more ramifications. Oh, wow. For the Trump presidency. Brace for impact. New York Times now saying the chance of the Trump presidency is 92%. Brace for impact. Okay.
Was going to win an electoral landslide. Not only is that not happening, it is entirely possible that Donald Trump is truly redrawing the map the way that he said he was going to.
Huffington Post, what happened to your fucking 98.4%? What happened to your, they said there was a 98.4%. And I keep picking on them.
Well,
they were not alone.
2% chance.
They were not alone. All the fucking idiots in Washington and New York. Oh, you're worried about nothing. You're worried about nothing.
You deal in probabilities. So what are the odds you're putting on the race right now?
So right now we have Hillary's about a 75 or an 80% favorite. We have different versions of the different versions of the forecast you can look at. So
The system is corrupt and it's rigged and it's broken, and we're going to change it.
Now, this will be True Rebel headquarters as Trump and his cronies begin their march against our freedoms.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Everybody should head home. You should get some sleep. And I want every person across the country who supported Hillary to know that your voices and your enthusiasm means so much to her and to Tim and to all of us.
But for people who don't have a relationship with God, that is your relationship or anybody else's relationship, what do they do?
You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country. It's real.
Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. Donald Trump is going to be our president.
Wolf, the scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. I have been looking around the room at people who are stone-faced. Some of them have been crying. The scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. There are people who are just in shock and they are just stunned at the idea that they were completely sure they were coming to this event to celebrate Hillary Clinton becoming the first female president, and now they are confronting the reality that they could be walking out of here perhaps expecting that Donald Trump is going to become president.
People have talked about a miracle. I'm hearing about a nightmare.
It's an amazing story right now. Whatever happens, it is, Dana, a truly amazing story.
One of the other things that's interesting is there are obviously millions of Americans who voted for Barack Obama in 2012 and voted for Donald Trump today, which is a fascinating thing given that Donald Trump is running as the anti-Obama in almost every possible way.
I have no respect for women who voted for Trump. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
I think so poorly of them. And the reason why is because, look, I don't think that you're a single issue voter. I just think you're dumb. Okay. I think you're fucking dumb.
This is, she won every debate by all standards. Every debate. Every debate. She had the best ad campaign, the best ground game. This is a shot against meritocracy, I think, because she merited everything. And the normal way you standardize these things, she did what she's supposed to do to win. And Trump came in around the corner. Well, we're going to study this for a while. I think.
Well, wow. Try to Civil War. Ken Burns film on this.
First of all, I don't think we should overlook the human element here either. If Hillary Clinton does win this, I mean, this is potentially, it's devastating.
And so if Donald Trump is democratically elected and your son is serving as a Marine, you wouldn't trust his life under that commander-in-chief? And Kane said, I wouldn't. That's a pretty extraordinary thing to say. If you have a son in the Marine Corps and that you don't trust the commander-in-chief, the people in the military defend the Constitution.
Well, America is crying tonight. I'm not sure how much of America, but a very, very significant portion. And I mean literally crying.
Caught off guard that I wasn't in touch with the country I live in, and that maybe I am in a bubble when critics come out on social media and say, you don't know what the world's about. Sadly, now I woke up and I thought maybe I don't.
The question is Obamacare, the Supreme Court.
Listen, I think this is a very consequential event.
What we've noticed is there are a few more people streaming in. They've put on the music that we've come to expect from the campaign, what we've heard on the campaign trail for months, a little bit more upbeat atmosphere, but it may, but the looks on people's faces still very glum. We've seen a number of people in tears.
The woman who President Obama called the most qualified person ever to run for the White House couldn't break through. The question remains, who can?
Feels like the end of the world.
Get your abortions now, because we're going to be fucked and we're going to have to live with it.
This is the first time throughout this entire race where I'm officially shitting my pants.
This is a different Earth today than it was 24 hours ago. It's a different place. Cause it just is different.
If Trump wins, how about bursting into tears and screaming fuck for the next 45 minutes?
Because I'm on this network and people know my attitudes about things. They come up to me and they're scared, depressed, despair, desperate even, almost clinging to me.
It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes.
It feels like we're trying to avoid the apocalypse and half of the country is voting for the asteroid.
Is there a doomsday plan for a time like this? Am I right to ask about a doomsday plan? Do you see this as a doomsday scenario?
Is that not since George W. Bush has there been a White House, a Senate, and a House of Representatives, all from the same party. And then the FBI has stuck its nasty little nose in the middle of this. Plus the Supreme Court, who knows where that's going to...
You know what we do? We go play hardball politics. We're gonna go after them in every conceivable way. And so they think I'm the enemy. Yeah, goddamn right I'm your enemy.
You know, she was Hillary Clinton, the most qualified candidate, the best suited for the job, the best temperament. Now we're hearing not a good candidate.
Well, let's just cut to the chase. Assuming, and that's what we're talking about, that he does win. People I'm speaking to think it's absolutely catastrophic. That it's catastrophic for the United States, that it's catastrophic for our position in the world. It emboldens our enemies and adversaries. It makes our allies terrified that we're not going to be their allies anymore. Most people think that this type of scenario happens. That if you imagine the United States as a nuclear warship, we stop. We become totally focused on our own domestic politics, that he's going to provoke a constitutional crisis. He's going to get into a fight with the Supreme Court. There'll be attempts to impeach him. And that for 6 months to a year or longer, we will be navel gazing. We will not be leading the world. And other powers, Russia, China, adjust around us.
He has called our general stupid. He has advocated.
Let me tell you, tonight the general is reading the Constitution.
I'm sorry, say it again?
I've been talking to generals for a long time. They've been reading the Constitution to see what they are obligated to do. If they are really ordered to round up and deport millions of Americans and put them on buses or trains, do they have to do that? The president is the commander in chief. That's the stage that we're talking about. It's, do they have to follow what they would believe would be an immoral and illegal order?
But for me, when you scare children by saying you're not going to let them stay in the country, you're going to separate them out, children don't know what you're talking about. They hear these things and it's crazy. And this is a bigger picture. This is bigger than him. This ripples out in so many different, affects gay folks, gay marriage, transgender people. This has huge effects. Whether we are a nation who believes in people's rights as they are constitutionally guaranteed, whether we're a nation that believes in the rights as God has guaranteed, whatever you believe, no child should be afraid that their parents are going to be taken away because they're Muslim or because they're Mexican or because they're Black.
Everybody is crying and so upset, and it is the end of their world.
You're thinking, where can I squeeze some more Democratic votes to make that up? My answer is, I don't know. I don't see it.
Anderson, it's really a remarkable development, a historic development, what's unfolding right now. It's not over yet. We're watching every state, every electoral vote.
Without a doubt, probably one of the most momentous nights in American political history, certainly modern American political history.
It's hard to be a parent tonight for a lot of us. You tell your kids, don't be a bully. You tell your kids, don't be a bigot. You tell your kids, do your homework and be prepared. And then you have this outcome, and you have people putting children to bed tonight, and they're afraid of breakfast. They're afraid of, how do I explain this to my children? I have Muslim friends who are texting me tonight saying, should I leave the country? I have families of immigrants that are terrified tonight. This was many things. This was a rebellion against the elites. True, it was a complete reinvention of politics and polls, it's true. But it was also something else. We've talked about race. I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income. We've talked about class. We've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a Black president in part.
How did this happen? Experienced politician versus racist fake gynecologist.
Elite that travels the world and has money. If those people feel like, you know what, this is not my America anymore, that is too part of the grieving process as you described it. And the question is, are they able to come home?
Is there going to be an element of retribution for those who weren't with him along the way, or for, changing libel laws or whatever it was, for the crooked media, stuff like that?
How do you govern when your whole campaign was built on the hatred of somebody else?
From slavery to, Nazism, we have faced challenges before to who we are as a people.
A woman ran for president.
Right.
Probably the
She won't be the last.
She won't be the last, that's for sure. But probably the most qualified, by traditional metrics, person to run in generations. And she was beaten by someone who, at least from traditional metrics, is the least qualified person. And I wonder, and I don't have a view, but I think it's at least worth talking about. You are taught when you are a young woman, when you're a young person of color, when you're any kind of outsider, LGBT, that what you're supposed to do is be the best. Is to stack up all the credentials, go to the best schools, do all these great things so you can separate, so you can prove that you're worthy of these opportunities. And now you have an example of someone who did that to the nth degree and was just devastated.
Yeah, but you can make it. Not true. That's not true. No one told her to go set up a private server. No one told her to delete 33,000 emails. No one told her that you have to break the law in order to run for president of the United States. Nobody said that. No one said you have to go and become the Secretary of State and then cash in and make hundreds of millions of dollars from foreign countries who degrade women, who degrade blacks, who degrade homosexuals, and you keep that money and use that money to pay for your daughter's wedding. No one said you have to do any of those things to become the president.
They're all bad. Let's start with Kentucky because we don't care. Oh, 73-25 Trump.
Okay, how Kentucky? Who cares?
All right, you know what we haven't had in a presidential election in a long time?
A real landslide. I mean, yeah, we've had some elections that were lopsided. Barack Obama won by 7 points in 2008 against John McCain. That was a solid, lopsided win for Barack Obama. But McCain still won 22 states in that race. What I'm talking about when I say a landslide is something bigger than what we saw in 2008. I'm talking about a real, thorough, honest-to-goodness beatdown. That's something we used to see all the time, actually. Richard Nixon carrying 49 states and more than 60% of the vote back in 1972. Ronald Reagan taking 44 states in 1980, 49 in 1984, winning by nearly 20 points. That was a big, massive blowout. Even George Bush Sr. burying Michael Dukakis and taking 40 states in 1988. That was 4 presidential elections right there, 4 out of 5 from 1972 to 1988, where the winning candidate took at least 40 states and 400 electoral votes. Those were landslides. But since then, well, we haven't had any on that scale. And supposedly, it's just not possible anymore. The country is more polarized now. There's red America, there's blue America, there's almost nothing in between. Only a handful of states are really up for grabs in any given election. That is what we've become used to. But, and I don't want to oversell this here, but at least right now, in this moment, we're seeing an interesting possibility in this presidential race. Our new NBC News SurveyMonkey poll is out today. It puts Hillary Clinton up by 10 points over Donald Trump. And this is not the first poll since the conventions to give Clinton a double-digit lead. This is actually the fourth. 4 polls that have Clinton up by more than 10 points, or at least 10 points. Her lead is reaching levels we just didn't see in the past few campaigns. Now, maybe this is just a temporary thing. Maybe Trump is going to recover, and a month from now, we're going to be talking about a razor-thin race all over again. Totally possible. But there's another possibility. What if we're seeing something else, something deeper, a more permanent separation between Clinton and Trump? Could we be seeing our first true landslide in a long time, a double-digit landslide? That is Clinton's lead in 4 polls now. And the last time an election ended with a candidate winning by double digits, well, you got to go all the way back to this.
We're watching a really phenomenal development tonight as Ronald Reagan continues to roll through the country. So far, Walter Fritz Mondale has won only the District of Columbia. All those states that you see behind me that are colored blue are the states that we have projected Ronald Reagan the winner in tonight. Here's the Electoral College vote as we have it right now. 405 votes for Ronald Reagan. He has exceeded the Electoral College total that his pollster Dick Wirthlin said that he would get, 400. Fritz Mondale with only 3. So that makes it an Electoral College landslide alone. And here's what's going on with the national vote. 27% of the precincts have reported in so far. The Reagan margin now has dropped a wee bit. It's down from 22 points down to 18 points. It's still in the landslide proportions.
It's dropped from 22 points all the way down to 18 points. That's what counts for suspense when you're talking about a landslide. So that was 84. Reagan won 49 states. Look, nobody's talking about this one being a 49-state landslide, but some very interesting things are happening with this electoral map. Again, at least right now, I want to take you through them. So what you have here, these are basically how the states voted in 2012, but we've taken 5 of them and we've made them gray. What are these 5 gray states? These are basically Rust Belt states. These are industrial, Midwest, and get to 270. So the first question is, how is he doing in these states that are the most promising for him? This is a brand new poll. This came out a couple hours ago. NBC News, Marist. Well, look at this. A double-digit lead for Hillary Clinton in Pennsylvania. Hardly the first. Donald Trump, Pennsylvania is a big target, but all the evidence we have right now says Pennsylvania is still favored to be a Democratic state. What about Ohio? We have a brand new poll out of Ohio. He is still down in Ohio, a 5-point gap. So again, right now, Donald Trump targeting Ohio just like he's targeting Pennsylvania, but he's not there right now. Clinton's still leading in Ohio. Another one, brand new NBC Marist poll out of Iowa today. Again, a little bit closer, but a 4-point lead for Hillary Clinton. Right now, is Donald Trump ahead in Iowa? Not in this poll. We don't have new polls today, but again, the burden is still on Donald Trump to show that he can do something Mitt Romney and a whole bunch of other Republicans over the last generation or so couldn't do, and that is actually win these states. That's the first thing that's going wrong for Trump. The bigger problem is this, though. These are the blue states he thinks he can flip. How about the red states he needs to hold? How about the states Romney won in 2012 that Trump maybe is just assuming he's going to hold? Well, check this out. Brand new numbers out of North Carolina. North Carolina was a Mitt Romney state in 2012. Well, right now in this poll, Hillary Clinton has the lead. Possible Hillary Clinton could end up flipping North Carolina, making it a blue state. Trump's problem, though, gets a lot worse than North Carolina. Look at this. Georgia, new poll, 7-point lead. All this talk about Trump turning blue states red, we could see the opposite happening with Hillary Clinton having a double-digit lead nationally. But it's not just North Carolina. It's not just Georgia. Look at this. This came out just about 2 hours ago. Kansas, one of the most Republican states in the country. The margin here was more than 20 points for Mitt Romney in 2012. Donald Trump leading by just 5 points in Kansas. Remember, there's a lot of big suburbs. Again, you would take that and say, not a sure thing for Trump, just like we've seen polls that say Utah is not a sure thing for Trump, just like we've seen polls that say Arizona, not a sure thing for Trump. In fact, there have been polls putting Hillary Clinton ahead there. When you get to a 10-point race nationally, which you have 4 polls in the last week saying Donald Trump could have to worry about Indiana. He could have to worry about Missouri if this holds up. And it's a big if. Again, Donald Trump could close the gap, could be a different story in a month. But if Hillary Clinton could sustain the kind of lead she has leaped out into this race, you could see other states that suddenly get crazy, states you wouldn't have even imagined, like a South Carolina, even a Texas. They could at least become competitive. And what it would mean doesn't mean Hillary Clinton's going to win all of these. It means we could have more competitive states than we ever imagined. That's the lay of the land right now at this low moment for Donald Trump. We'll be back right after this.
Donald Trump cannot win a choice election.
Without college-educated white voters, Donald Trump can't win.
Give you a prediction. Yeah. It still looks like Hillary's the next president.
But I have not yet included Donald Trump in our coverage of the Republican presidential campaign this season. And that is because he is obviously never going to be president.
They like him on the way up. They're going to like him on the way down.
The debate isn't about, so when we're analyzing this, the debate is never about, can Trump win the election? The standard has now been reduced to, can Trump make it through the next 4 weeks without getting removed from the ticket?
Over 60% of Republicans aren't going to vote for Donald Trump.
He's not going to win all 4 of those states.
No,
that's what you're saying.
no.
Yep.
Trump, I don't believe, is going to be the party's nominee. And if he is, he's going to get crushed by Hillary Clinton.
If either Trump or Cruz is the nominee, we probably lose. Definitely that's the case with Trump.
You have to understand, he cannot win.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us. It's about us on our victory.
If Trump wins, how about bursting into tears and screaming, fuck? Feels like the end of the world.
On Lifetime last night, and I was slowly getting drunk is what happened to me.
How do we explain how this is possible?
How did this happen? Get your abortions now. Because we're going to be...
You're awake, by the way.
I cannot put a...
Am I right to ask about a doomsday plan? You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead.
They come up to me and they're scared, depressed, despair.
This was a white lash against a changing country.
And you haven't gone to hell.
This is a different earth today than it was.
This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country.
Look at that. Everything is the opposite of what you expected. You expected Hillary to win. You expected Trump to contest the outcome and say it's not legitimate. But actually, it's very likely, certainly possible. She didn't go out last night and address her supporters.
Is that bad?
She didn't.
Well, it's sad because clearly she couldn't face it, right? But it's also bad because you need symbolically, it's a ritual, and you need to go through closure. I lost. Look at me. I lost. The country needs that, and I hope she will do that.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
I do, based on your theme, believe that he's here to stay for a while, maybe through a few primaries, but he is not going to be the nominee.
As I've mentioned before, Victor, Donald Trump is not the Republican nominee.
Now there's this Trump thing going on, I gather. He's doing okay in the polls for a while, but he's not going to be the nominee either. So we'll be fine.
Well, I don't think it's likely that Donald Trump will be the nominee, but it's obviously too early to tell. I would vote for the nominee of the Republican Party, and I don't believe that's going to be Donald Trump.
Can he win the nominee?
Well, sure he can. You can make a case that
that probably 6 or 7 people can make the nomination. Do I think it's likely? No.
The only thing is Donald Trump hasn't won this nomination. The majority of Republican voters don't want Donald Trump as their nominee.
And Donald Trump, who is not going to be the nominee. Number one, as a Republican, are you going to be able to support the Republican nominee if his name is Donald Trump?
Donald Trump will not be the nominee.
All right, but that's not answering the question.
I feel very confident that the nominee is going to be anyone but Donald Trump.
The polling and common sense will take you away from Trump getting the nomination.
I don't think he'll be at the top of the ticket, one, so it's a hypothetical for me. I don't think it's going to happen.
He's the front runner, according to the polls and the elections. He could become the nominee, and we're not going to let that happen.
Ultimately, the Republican Party will reach out to all voters based on who our nominee is. And I don't believe Donald Trump will be our nominee.
In fact, it's almost inevitable to say whoever is really the front runner running away with it today is not going to be the nominee.
And I believe that Donald Trump will not be the nominee. Well, he's not going to be the nominee, Martha. Donald Trump is not going to get the nomination.
Donald is not going to be the GOP nominee. We're going to be. Well, listen, Martha, nobody's going to clinch it on the first ballot. Nobody is getting to 1237. I'm not, but Donald Trump is, and
I'll leave it to you to speculate on how this whole race is going to go.
Well, I don't think it's likely that Donald Trump will be the nominee.
He is not going to be the nominee.
But he's not going to be the nominee, Chuck.
Donald Trump, who is not going to be the nominee.
Donald Trump is not going to be the Republican nominee.
Donald Trump is not getting to 1237.
He might get to 1,237. Realistically, I wouldn't bet $1 on it.
He might be leading the Republican ticket next.
I know you don't believe that, but I want to go on.
Donald Trump has reached the number of delegates
Needed to clinch the Republican nomination.
for president.
I'm so honored. I continue to believe Mr. Trump will not be president.
With Latinos, and it would be sweet, sweet justice if after everything he has said, after every attack he has made against Latinos, after he has thrown out Latino anchors from press events, after he hasn't done any outreach, after he has questioned a judge's citizenship, after he has called Mexicans rapists, it would be sweet, sweet justice if tonight it was the Latino vote that defeated Donald Trump.
Mr. Bush has branded him a jerk, who he says is trying to insult his way into the presidency and should be called out, he says. Well, now Mr. Bush says if Trump does win the party's nomination, he claims he won't stand a chance against Hillary Clinton.
Trump, I don't believe, is going to be the party's nominee. And if he is, he's going to get crushed by Hillary Clinton. I wanted to point that.
So Donald Trump will lose, and he will then destroy the Republican Party. Can Donald Trump win a general election?
My view is no.
You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
Well, I can't find a single Republican. I talked to probably 12 Republican senators yesterday or their representatives. I couldn't find a single one who now thinks they're going to win.
Donald Trump is not going to get the nomination. I'd like to support the nominee, but he's not going to be the nominee. That's just not going to happen.
Well, I don't think it's likely that Donald Trump will be the nominee.
He is not going to be the nominee.
Well, I'm going to support the Republican nominee, and I'm comfortable that it's not going to be Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is not going to get this Republican nomination.
So, Jenny, could he actually win?
No freaking way!
Do not tell me that Donald Trump is in this to win this, okay? He's a sideshow.
I don't think his plan has anything to do with Latinos. His plan, his strategy is to win the White House without Latinos. I don't think he can do it.
The scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. There are people who are just in shock, and they are just stunned at the idea that they were completely sure they were coming to this event to celebrate Hillary Clinton becoming the first female president, and now they are confronting the reality that they could be walking out of here perhaps expecting that Donald Trump is going to become president.
Everybody should head home. You should get some sleep. I want every person across the country who supported Hillary to know that your voices and your enthusiasm means so much to her and to Tim and to all of us. You are in all of our hearts. Thank you.
Some magazines are facing big embarrassments today. Newsweek had already shipped out this cover, Madam Secretary, but quickly had to change it to this, President Trump.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States, Donald Trump.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
We can't sell beef. It's peanuts. And by the way, unbelievable people are coming. A lot of people that are illegal are great people. Just let's get it straight. They don't want to give it straight because the press are liars. They're terrible people. But here's an idea. So Mexico is sending lots of people. And by the way, they're coming from all over the world, including the Middle East. Why not? Come in. Come on in. We're stupid. We'll take care of you. We'll pay. Get sick, we'll take care of your hospitalization. What kind of a plan do you want? Oh, Don, you're a little controversial. You're talking about illegal immigration. I said it's illegal.
That there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Try getting it out. Go ahead.
The premiums are going through the roof. The deductibles, frankly, you have to get hit with a Komatsu tractor in order to use them. They're so high. We just spent $1 million building a soccer field, okay? A soccer field for our prisoners that happen to be in Guantanamo, okay? I don't like that. What do you need $1 million for? Level out the surface, let them play. The Iranians are great negotiators. The Persians are great negotiators. And we have people that are babies. It's like a chess player, grandmaster, playing against a checkers child. No, that's what it is. We give them, think of it, a nuclear scientist, and they won't give us our hostages back. It's so insane. President Obama, Secretary Kerry, I highly think you should read this book quickly. Quickly!
We have very stupid people in our country negotiating for us, and we have leaders that don't know what they're doing.
You know, Jeb Bush, one of my opponents, I noticed he's not doing very well in the polls. I've actually done. And by the way, they said I won the debate. Is that nice? Is that nice? The polls came out and said I won. And the media, look at all those people back there. Scavengers. They're like scavengers.
They'll probably say the crowds were about equal. Oh, they were equal. But that's the way they are, very dishonest.
CNN is terrible. CNN. You're with CNN? Are you with CNN? Are you? You people do not cover us accurately at all. So they have a few protesters outside, and they have thousands of people. And the first question from CNN is about protesters.
So what I'm going to do is span out. Show them the crowd, press. Show them the crowd. Show them the crowd. Look, they're not turning the cameras. They don't even turn the cameras. They don't even turn the cameras because you know what? They're very dishonest people. Because you know what they do? They have the camera, live television on my face the entire amount. My wife goes, I go home. Were there any people there tonight, darling? They don't see. They never show the crowds. Frankly, I don't even think they give a damn about education, half of them. And I'm sure some maybe do. Want to use that word in this form? I will. Because people want to hear the truth, Frank. I watch you all the time. They want to hear the truth. Correct. We have to be able to express ourselves.
But referring to people as rapists, referring to John McCain, a war hero, 5.5 years as a POW, and you call him a dummy. Is that appropriate in running for president?
Okay, you got to let me speak, though, Frank, because you interrupt all the time, okay? So, no, I know him too well. That's the problem.
In the center of the stage tonight, businessman Donald Trump.
I would never give up my microphone. I thought that was disgusting. That showed such weakness. The way he was taken away by two young women. The microphone, they just took the whole place over. That will never happen with me. I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will. But that was a disgrace. The way I felt badly for him. But it showed that he's weak. You want to be what, vice president? Oh, now his question's no longer as good. He had great credibility until he said that. Now it's like, where did he come from?
We need a leader that wrote The Art of the Deal. I said trade deals. Who would do better? I'll tell you what. I know the greatest negotiators in the world. Some are horrible people, horrible human beings. Who cares? Some Wall Street guys, they're brutal, they're miserable. You wouldn't want to go out to dinner. They're terrible people. I love them. You know who's our primary representative right now? Carolyn Kennedy. You know how she got the job? 60 Minutes. She went to the White House. She said, I'd love to have a job. I have nothing to do. They said, how would you like to be the ambassador to Japan? She goes, really? You know why I say she's nice? Because my daughter Ivanka likes her. My daughter's so good. She's such a great person. My daughter likes her. She said, Daddy, she's such a nice person. I don't want a nice, I want to kill her. We're tired of the nice people.
Somewhere there, we'll find a balance tonight.
So I would have dinner with my kids almost always, and I'm always available to my children. I could be in the middle of the biggest, most important deal. And for instance, if Ivanka called me right now, I'd say, bye-bye, Frank. You're a wonderful guy.
I think it's unlikely, but if Jeb became president, when they say, Mr. President, it's very bad that Ford's building in Mexico. Oh, okay. We'll do something. Let me go to sleep first. We'll do something.
We need somebody that can take our jobs back, Frank, because we're going to hell. Our country's going to hell. And Frank doesn't like the word hell, but we're going to hell.
I beat the people from China. I win against China. You can win against China if you're smart. But our people don't have a clue. We give state dinners to the heads of China. I say, why are you doing state dinners for them? They're ripping us left and right. Just take them to McDonald's and go back to the negotiating table. Seriously.
Well, I heard Hugh Hewitt, a nice man, he apologized because he actually said that we had a misunderstanding. And he said today that Donald Trump is maybe the best interview there is anywhere that he's ever done. Now, unless he was just saying that on CNN to be nice, but he did say that.
Oh, you're the best interview in America.
And we had a legitimate misunderstanding in terms of his pronunciation of a word. But I would say just, well, I think it was. And he actually said that. Did you say that?
And so radio makes an interesting thing.
Okay, so I will say this, though. You was giving me name after name, Arab name, and there are few people anywhere that would have known those names. I think he was reading them off a sheet.
Fox hasn't touched this. I've been in touch with Kelly, too. And I've been in
Let's go. Come on. Gotta go.
All right.
Gotta go.
There's
You're screwing up my whole speech this guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's counterfeit substandard parts in most of the nuclear plants in the United States.
Counterfeit substandard parts in nuclear plants in the United States. I'm not surprised to hear that. Why? Am I surprised?
And some of them have come from China. Now, when I brought
And in airplanes, too, by the way.
When I brought this out, the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, accused me of...
And our weapons, we don't even know if they work. To show you how stupid we are, they did a major television program, 60 Minutes, I don't know if anybody saw it, where they go into the silos. The stuff is old, it's rotted, the phone systems don't work, the wires going to the phones are all, they don't even know if it works. And I said, if I were Obama, I wouldn't be showing that. And they got in there because Obama wanted people to see how bad it is so that maybe they could get some money to fix it up. How stupid is this? Our enemies are looking at this stuff with 44-year-old phones and wires that don't work. And the people, they're interviewing the people that are working in these phone systems. And they're saying, no, you can't hear. You can't hear. And I'm saying, can you believe what we're doing? It's like in the war. They were saying,
We're going in 2 weeks and we're going to be attacking a certain city. You know what I'm talking about. And we're going to attack, and this is the way we're doing it, and we're going here. And I'm saying, can you imagine the great General Douglas MacArthur or George Patton, any of these great guys, listening to a president say exactly what we're going to be doing? Then I said, you know, that's smart, because they'll do the opposite. They didn't. It was exactly as he said. First of all, these lenders aren't babies. These are total killers. These are not the nice, sweet little people that you think, okay? You know, I mean, you're living in a world of the make-believe, Chris. You want to know the truth. Right now we have Obama. He won't call. He doesn't even call to get our hostages back from Iran. Here we are in the middle of a deal, and he doesn't call about that. One sentence, I'd say, you got to, before we start, get those people back. Used to be 3, now it's 4. Get those people. They'd be back the next hour. You hear our politicians, John McCain, 2 days, oh, Benghazi, you don't hear about it anymore. Hillary Clinton with emails, all the emails, 2 days. I'm more disappointed in the Republicans in many ways. They talk and talk and talk.
And I just got back from Chattanooga, too, and I spoke to some Marines there.
And guess what happens to Anthony Weiner? A month ago, I see he went to work for a public relations firm. Do you believe it? Now, if you think that Uma isn't telling Anthony, who she's probably desperately in love with, in all fairness to Anthony, because why else would she marry this guy? Can you believe it? Can't see straight. But if you would...
I got involved because I'm in the nursing home profession.
Okay, come on, you know, I got to go. Hey, come on.
Oh, wait a minute. No, let me finish this.
Okay. You know what? I think your question's great, and I can understand. He's talking about basically counterfeit parts, just to cut to the chase. We don't have to know that you're in the nursing home business. What are you trying to talk to some of us about joining your little home? Come on, sit down. Enough. We think it's good. We think your point is good. Yeah, give it to him. Good. They said to Marco Rubio, are you having fun? He's sweating like a pig. I never saw a guy sweat like this. The sweat is pouring down. I think Rubio is a low energy. But here's the problem with Rubio. When you sweat that much, now think of it. So you have Putin, he's sitting over here. And he's waiting to kill the stupid Americans because he's been just destroying us so badly. So he figures, oh, and a guy walks in and he's soaking wet and sweating. Hello, hello, can I have some water? And Putin's sitting there, what the hell kind of stuff is this? This is not exactly a poker player, folks.
John McCain goes, oh boy, Trump makes my life difficult. He had 15,000 crazies show up, crazies. He called them all crazy. I said, they weren't crazy. They were great Americans. These people, if you would have seen these people, I know what a crazy is. I know all about crazies. These weren't crazy. So he insulted me, and he insulted everybody in that room. And I said, somebody should run against John McCain, who has been, you know, in my opinion, not so hot. And I supported him. I supported him for president. I raised $1 million for him. It's a lot of money. I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, you know, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that, because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you. Do you agree with that? He's a war hero because he was captured.
Newsflash, the Republican Party's been fighting against a single-payer system for a decade. So I think you're on the wrong side of this if you're still arguing for a single-payer system.
I don't think you heard me. You're having a hard time tonight.
All right,
I know Anthony Weiner for a long time. I knew before they caught him with the bing, 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 right? And he was a bad guy then. It turned out that he was a really bad guy. So Rand Paul calls. He wants to play golf. I play golf. I kill him at golf. I did. But when the folks of Iowa found out the true facts of the job that you've done in Wisconsin, all of a sudden you tubed. He was #1. Now he's number 6 or 7 in the poll. So Jeb Bush, let's say he's president. He knows it's so good. He'll have a little pressure. Don't let the plant be built. And he might even say, don't let the plant be built. Might even call the head of Ford. The plant's not going to be built. And then the next day, he'll be called by special interests that supported him, his lobbyists who push him around like a piece of candy,
Jeb Bush will never take us to the promised land. He doesn't have it.
Did you ever see a sign that says Jeb Bush or Bush? Now, there's a reason he doesn't use his last name, because it's not going to work too well. Because we had a lot of problems with that last name. And I think you can see I'm having a good time. I really am. You know, they said to Jeb Bush, he was like this. They said,